My name is Bernard Harcourt, and I'd like to say a few words about my new book, Critique and Praxis. History pushed critical theory down an epistemological path that was productive, but distanced it from its true ambition to change the world. It's time to return to that ambition and draw on all the resources of critical philosophy to invent, refine, and perfect our political practices and to realize a just society. To change the world. The ambition of critical philosophy since its inception in the 19th century has always been to transform human existence, not just to make the world more safe and secure for private possessions or for the free pursuit of self-interest, as Hobbes, Locke, or Smith aspired to earlier, not just to make it more rational, self-conscious, or orderly with Kant, Hegel, or Weber, nor simply to make men more virtuous or life more pleasurable, as Aristotle, Seneca, and the ancients envisioned millennia before, but rather to create a more just and equal society with less domination and social differential, and to materialize the opportunity for each and every one of us to flourish and achieve our greatest potential, to realize a world of equal citizens in which all human beings can fulfill their talents and aspirations, in which all are nurtured and educated and cared for generously and respectfully by each other, tending not only to their dreams and ambitions, but also humbly to everyone else's. Our goal as critical theorists is and has always been to change the world. This was the ambition from Horkheimer to Arendt to Fanon to Sartre to Foucault to Butler to Chantal Mouffe and Sarah Ahmed today. The object of critical philosophy is not simply the theory of emancipation, Horkheimer emphasized in 1937. It is, he said, the practice of it as well. Now, unfortunately, a series of historical setbacks, failures, and catastrophes during the 20th century led critical philosophy to beat retreat from its practical ambitions. These seismic shifts in history, the rise of fascism and the Holocaust, the Gulag archipelago, and the collapse of Soviet communism, the eclipse of the student and worker revolts of May in 1968, the hegemonic emergence of global neoliberalism. These shifts in history all chastened the critical impulse and pushed critical theory into a safer epistemological direction, safer at least for philosophers and critical thinkers. Critical theory, in effect, took an epistemological detour and moved away from praxis. The historical setbacks effectively pushed critical philosophy into an epistemological detour with Antonio Gramsci's idea of cultural hegemony, the Frankfurt School's critique of ideology, Louis Althusser's notes on ideological state apparatuses, Foucault's theories of knowledge power and later regimes of truth, Derrida's deconstructive practices. All of this work took a sharply epistemological turn. And the result is that today, critical theory has been diverted from its true ambition to change the world. Now, this collapse of critical philosophy and of its ambition, not just to interpret, but to change the world, could not have come at a worse time. It coincides with the most pressing crises that humans have ever faced. The state-sanctioned killing of Black lives, the looming cataclysm of global climate change, the hegemonic rise of neoliberalism, the surge of a fascist new right at an international dimension. We face today unprecedented critical times at the very moment of critical failure. Now, it's time to return to the task of critical philosophy, not merely to interpret the world, but to change it, to develop critical praxes appropriate to these critical times. It's time to move forward. It is time, I argue, past time, to imagine a new critical praxis theory for the 21st century. This is the task I've set myself in Critique and Praxis, to counter decades of contemplative complacency, and to return critical praxis to its central place in critical theory. In doing so, this project strives to reformulate for a more self-reflective, critical age, the action imperative, what is to be done. Today, that imperative has to be reformulated. The question, what is to be done, cannot be asked that way anymore. It is, as Adorno had suggested decades ago, too much like the policeman asking you for your identification papers. No, the question has to be rethought and reformulated. For me, in this book, it becomes, what more shall I do? And what work is my praxis doing? You may have a different reformulation. My task is not to impose mine, but the reformulation must be pursued. And this book calls for a profusion of critical debate over our own critical practices, because in the end, the aim of critical theory is to change the world, not just to change ourselves, although that may be a prerequisite, but to remake our society along lines of compassion, equality, solidarity, and social justice. Thank you.